We also say, quite unequivocally, at this meeting this evening, withdraw the Sri Lankan army from all Tamil areas and break down the camps. That's a basic demand, by the way. It's something that we raise in relation to Afghanistan. We raise it in relation to Iraq. Let the peoples of these areas decide their fate. It's not the job of armies of Western imperialism or a government that's based upon a majority of Sri Lanka but does not represent the oppressed minority at this particular moment in time. You have a position in the last couple of weeks where this government has acted in an absolutely incredibly brazen fashion. We have the situation, for instance, where a Tamil journalist is jailed for 20 years for actually giving an account of what is taking place in Sri Lanka at the present time. You have a United Nations representative of UNICEF over the objections of the General Secretary of the UN, and by the way, Barack Obama, who mentioned it in one of his contributions, is actually banned from the country itself. And this, by the way, is on the basis of the daring to report of state terrorism developing in Sri Lanka at the present time. Now the question is, we know about the horrors. It's been adequately described here today. The question is, how are we going to exert pressure in order to free the peoples of Sri Lanka, and particularly the Tamil-speaking people, from these horrors? You see, for instance, the donors and the British government is weeping crocodile tears at the present time. Well, there's crocodile tears and there's crocodile teeth as far as the capitalist governments are concerned. It is crocodile tears. We have the donors protesting, and yet in the negotiations with the IMF, the Rajapaksa government only asked for 1.9 billion. The IMF gave something like 2.1 billion, and moreover, Britain and America, who've been wringing their hands about the fate of the Tamils, abstained in the vote in the IMF itself. It's sheer hypocrisy what is actually taking place at the present time. And we have, unfortunately, supporting the Rajapaksa government, alleged socialist governments. We not only have Ahmadinejad in Iran, we also have, unfortunately, Hugo Chavez. And anybody who supports the Rajapaksa government, I don't care who they are, you cannot say they're a socialist government. They're not acting according to the criteria of what we consider is a principled socialist position. As a matter of fact, the false friends of the Rajapaksa government, as has been explained, is China, is Pakistan, is Russia, is Libya, and so on. And you have to ask one question: why has China stepped in to Sri Lanka at the present time? Why has India stepped into Sri Lanka? Over the confidence and the sympathy it feels for the Rajapaksa government? Yes, as I will explain in a moment in the case of India. It's done for purely cash reasons. China is interested in the military port facilities, the deep port facilities of Sri Lanka. India, as Comrade Ranesh has pointed out, let's call it by its right name. It's not a major Western imperialist power, but India today is the strongest regional imperialist power that is attempting to do the role of imperialism in the past and is invested in a power station, for instance, in the eastern part of Sri Lanka at the present time. China has one role and one interest alone in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America, and that is to extract the cheapest form of raw materials in order to maintain its industry. In a way, it's very similar to what Western imperialism has done in relation to China in the past, as far as that is concerned. Now, this horror has arrived in Sri Lanka because of the incapacity of the Sri Lankan capitalists and landlords to grant the basic democratic rights to the minority in Sri Lanka. But unfortunately, it's been enormously compounded by the workers' organisations who were powerful when I went to Sri Lanka in 1977. When the Lanka Samaja Party, which united within its ranks in a principled way, like the USP in Sri Lanka today, not just Sinhalese, but also Tamils. I saw 10,000 members of the LSSP marching through Colombo with red shirts in 1977 on May Day, that come out in a principal position in defence of the Tamil-speaking people. As Sanan pointed out in a marvellous phrase of Colvin R. de Silva, when he said 2 languages, 1 people or 1 nation. 1 language, 2 peoples. And unfortunately, that marvellous statement was compromised by the leaders of the LSSP, who dropped their principal position, who collaborated, and you take 1 step in the direction of mollifying nationalism and denial of the rights of a minority, you're on the slippery slope to actually abandoning a principal position as far as the rights of the Tamil-speaking people themselves are concerned. And that, unfortunately, has ended up with the LSSP disappearing as a force in Sri Lanka. The continuation of the LSSP, its best traditions, is in the ranks of the USP at the present, who, as Sanan pointed out, is the only principal party that has fought in Sri Lanka, in a singular community that has within its ranks Tamils, which has within its ranks Muslims, that produces a newspaper which has Sinhala and Tamil in its newspaper, and has suffered as a result of this. Comrade Siratunga faces a death threat. It's not unusual in Sri Lanka. He's known as a Sinhala tiger by the Sinhala press because of the defence of the Tamil-speaking people themselves. I was amazed when I read Tamil Net, I have to say, that praised Vikram Bahu as the only principled politician in the Sinhala areas who defended the rights of the Tamil-speaking people. It's not true. And moreover, I know Vikram Bahu. He goes back a long time. Comrades have mentioned the Sri Lanka Accord, the India-Sri Lanka Accord. We implacably opposed the Sri Lanka-India Accord. Not all Tamils, by the way, opposed it. It's natural. Given the oppression in Sri Lanka, they thought, well, India may come to the assistance of the Tamil-speaking people. We said India is intervening for its own reasons. The Indian ruling class will not support, in the end, the independence of the Tamil-speaking people because of the repercussions it will have in India, in Tamil Nadu at a certain stage, or the national rights that exist in certain parts of India itself. No more that when British imperialism intervened in Ireland, they didn't do it to save the Catholic population, the minority. They intervened in order to safeguard the position of British imperialism at that stage. We opposed the intervention of the Indian Army. Comrade Siratunga Jayasuriya also opposed the Indo-Sri Lanka Accord at that particular moment in time. And we have given unconditional, and we still do, unconditional support to the struggles for the national and democratic rights of the Tamil-speaking people. This war has not ended the national question in Sri Lanka. The idea of the Rajapaksa government is that by dispersing the Tamils, that will solve the problem. All that they'll do in the long run is to generalise the discontent of the Tamil-speaking people throughout the island of Sri Lanka, in the diaspora and in India itself. But we salute the martyrs who've given their lives. It's incredible what our comrade has done in the hunger strike. I agree with Sanan, irrespective of what happened during that. The fact that the comrade made those sacrifices, the ordinary fighters of the LTTE, the way that they've sacrificed, we salute them. They were fighting for a better world. It was summed up in the LTT program. They were fighting for democracy. They were fighting for the rights of the Tamil-speaking people. We have to draw a balance sheet. And when I say we, we're part of the struggle of the Tamil-speaking people. In fact, the only real defence, in the long run, I repeat, is the working people from a world point of view.